single minions. Previously here on my channel, in our little corner of the internet, I previously did 2 Magic the Gathering card unboxing videos, and they were a lot of fun to film. They seemed to be very well received. It's kind of a very soothing but interesting thing to watch, see all the very unique artwork, the amount of work that goes into designing these packs. Even if you don't play Magic, it can just be kind of a really interesting thing to watch. And I wanted to do another one of these videos because they're fun for me to go shopping for booster packs and then open them. I am attempting to learn the game Magic the Gathering. It is a very extensive process, and I'm trying. But I've already become somewhat addicted to the collecting aspect of the game as well. I just love the artwork so much. So I picked up a booster pack to go through today. This is one of the Amonkhet booster packs. It is a 15-card booster pack, and usually I would open 2 of these at a time, but I could only find one because this release is a couple of years old at this point. And when I found this, it was tucked down in behind a bunch of Guilds of Ravnica boxed sets, and it was covered in dust. I think they pulled them off the shelves perhaps and didn't see this one, so it was all dusty and kind of ratty looking. But the artwork of the Amonkhet release really interests me. It's kind of based off of some ancient Egyptian mysticism and culture, and some of the artwork that the ancient Egyptians used as well, some of their stylizations that they did. And so I wanted to have a look at this pack and have a little chat with you as well. So I hope you would like to join me, and as weird as it is to say, I hope that our little chat puts you to sleep. I guess that's the only situation that we say that, isn't it, in ASMR videos. However, let's go through this together, have a little chat, and hopefully you'll be off to sleep in no time. So, the Amonkhet release was very much focused on ancient Egyptian themes. And their cards and the artwork on the cards and on the packaging reflects that. So here on the front of this booster pack, there's like almost like a sphinx, but it's a griffin. I think it's a griffin. So they took kind of the image of the sphinx and they superimposed some fantasy onto it and a little bit more lore, even though there's plenty of lore surrounding the sphinx, the actual sphinx. But in Magic the Gathering, there's a little bit more and much more fantasy involved as well. So this griffin type fella here looks an awful lot like the sphinx. So you can see that it's quite heavily based there. And then as well on the back of the packaging here, there is some sort of pyramid looking constructions there. And they're not pointed at the top like the Egyptian pyramids were. They look like maybe they have some interesting little alleys and breaks and bridges and things in them there. So they look a little bit more futuristic as well. So there's some sort of fantasy futuristic type feel to the deck. Now it's my understanding that the Amonkhet release was very graveyard focused. So it involved a lot of bringing cards back to life or incurring penalties for sending another player's cards to a graveyard, that sort of thing. It tended to have that sort of theme. So it'll be interesting to see what sorts of things are in this deck, what sorts of cards we might find in the artwork that appears on them. So just as a quick comparison, if you haven't seen these images since high school, I'll just take a peek in one of my books here and I'll show you a comparison of the Sphinx and the pyramids to the artwork. So there are the pyramids of Giza, and they're pointy and they don't have any bridges in them. And then here are the Amonkhet pyramids kind of on top. So there's still 3 of them, it looks like, in the picture. 3, 4. And they're still technically pyramids. but they don't really look the same. So they're much more futuristic. And then this fellow on the front here, this Griffin Sphinx type fellow, is here beside the actual Sphinx. So you can kind of see the similarities there. It's kind of neat how they've morphed those ancient symbols into something new and futuristic. It's kind of cool. Now, before we get into opening this, I'm just going to tell you a little secret. I was obsessed with ancient Egypt. And if you've been on my channel for a while, then you know that I have this thing for like the occult and the mystical and the magical. So of course, ancient Egypt really falls into that spectrum as well. So I've always been fascinated with ancient Egypt. And almost 2 decades ago, when I was somewhere between junior high and high school, I don't remember exactly when, I created a website. I straight up taught myself HTML because that's all that the web had at that point. That's the only language that really was available to anyone off the streets. And I taught myself HTML, and I made myself a GeoCities website all about ancient Egypt. And I was so proud of this website. And one of the major pieces of it was that I took the lineage of all the gods and goddesses and where they had been partners and where they had had children and what those children were gods of and their names and things. And I drew this big family tree of all the major gods and goddesses of ancient Egypt. And I was so proud of it. So proud. And I put it up on my website. And I kind of forgot about it for like a good 10, 15 years. And it turns out that any GeoCities website that had not been deleted by the user turned up in this archive. They had all been archived into this big library of GeoCities websites. And I happened across this website a few months ago. I was just curious if that still existed. And lo and behold, I found it. And the pride resurged through my heart. Here I am, just like a little, I don't know, junior high aged girl teaching myself HTML because I was obsessed with ancient Egypt. So that's why this deck appealed to me so much. So we have here Magic the Gathering Amonkhet 15 card booster pack. And on the back it says, "Rise among the worthy. The plane of Amonkhet forges warriors. Compete in the trials of the 5 gods and claim an honored place in the elite ranks of the worthy." Well, I will certainly try. And so here is the foil packaging that came inside of the paper, the cardboard box there that I showed you earlier. And I can't tell if this is a planeswalker or if this is just one of the creatures that might be within this this booster pack or within the release as a whole. He appears to be some sort of jackal. I'm wondering if maybe he's not some sort of rendition of Anubis, the god. Maybe we'll find out. I do like his makeup though. I might do that look someday soon. What do you think? Just red all the way around. Excellent look for just going to the grocery store, you know. So the first card in any booster pack is a token card. So that means that the back is not the same as a typical backing on a Magic the Gathering card. So this would be a typical Magic the Gathering card back, and this is the back of the token card. This one has spotlights from the lore relating to this particular release. So there are certain cards that have a very prominent piece in the storyline. So that's kind of cool. Hopefully we'll have a couple of these cards in there. So the other side of the token card is usually a playable piece. And in this case, we have a token creature, an insect. So he's kind of a nasty looking fellow. I would say he's supposed to represent a scarab, or has been modeled after the scarab. And he's a pretty shade of blue, that's for sure. And looking closer at this, it looks like this is within one of the pyramids. So that's kind of cool. And there's a skull. So the little beetle is on a skull. And then there's a hand coming up in the back. So looks like maybe there's some zombies involved, maybe. I don't know. I like him. An interesting take on the scarab, which of course if you've seen like The Mummy or The Mummy Returns, then you would have seen scarabs. And they portrayed them, as I recall. Now this was a long time ago. I don't remember what year The Mummy was released, but it was a long time ago. I think that was actually my first exposure to Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson outside of wrestling. It wasn't a bad exposure. But they portrayed the scarabs as these flesh-eating, very nasty, kind of scourge insects. And in reality, they're not really. I think they're actually a dung beetle. And they might have some flesh-eating tendencies, but I don't think they're near as bad as the movie made it out to be. So, but that's our token creature. The insect. So the first true card that we draw from this booster pack is the Cartouche of Knowledge. And it says, Cartouches chronicle the initiate's achievements in the trials. And this particular Cartouche of Knowledge is an aura cartouche. And it is an enchantment. So it's my understanding of the cartouches found in ancient Egypt. They were kind of like an engraving, almost like a little plaque. They would be oval in shape, and they would have hieroglyphs written inside of a name or an object or some sort of charm or incantation, something like that. So in this case, I guess it's portraying some sort of hidden knowledge inside of this particular cartouche. There are some hieroglyphs there. It's hard to tell what they are. They're just little symbols kind of inside. They're kind of backlit with blue. And then, of course, there's the typical gold that you usually see in ancient Egyptian art as well. So the next card that we draw is Brute Strength. It is an instant. Oketra had our crop build an obelisk to prove the power of working together, but I'm stronger without the weak. Target creature gets +3/+1 and gains trample until end of turn. Interesting. Interesting addition. So it's a rather goaty looking fellow. I think he's got like ram horns or goat horns or something. It's hard to tell. And he's holding a piece of an obelisk, which was of course one of those tall sort of totem type things that were pointed at the top and usually had some sort of engraving on the sides, as you can kind of see in the picture of this one. And this fellow is very, very strong. He's very strong. And it looks like he's wearing combat boots, although I'm sure that's not actually the case. Okay, card number 3 is Sacred Cat. This is the Plains card. So it's white mana. Creature, cat. It's a lifelink. Exile this card from your graveyard, create a token that's a copy of it, except it's a white zombie cat with no mana cost. Embalm only as a sorcery. So it's a lifelink, and you can use to embalm as well. So it's like, sort of like bringing it back from the dead, but it's not. So this particular sacred cat is wearing a very ornate necklace. I would really like to have this necklace, actually. I don't wear a lot of like decorative, like, really jazzy jewelry, but I would wear that for sure. And it looks like maybe this cat is modeled after Bastet, the cat goddess from ancient Egypt. I believe she was a goddess of like the household, and if maybe had something to do with women, probably, if it was the household. Look at the ears on this thing. So now we have an instant called Cancel. It says, let me try one of Kefnet's puzzles. This one was too easy. And The artwork looks like a sorceress. I would say it's a sorceress. Inside some sort of orb with blue power in it, or blue mana, I suppose, in this case, because it is a blue mana card. And then she's got some sort of fire on the outside, so I can't tell if she's countering like a fire spell with some ice or something. I don't know, but I didn't think they had ice in ancient Egypt. So our next card is the Soul Stinger, which is a scorpion demon type creature. Well, this is a very nasty looking fellow. Looks like he could probably deal quite a bit of harm, honestly. So he has 2 long front arms, I suppose, with really, really pointy, stabby hands at the ends. And they're very long. I don't know why his arms are so long, but they are. And then he has 2 legs, you can see down here at the bottom of the card. And then he has like a little scorpion stinger tail. And the size of that stinger is quite small given the size of the rest of this fellow. But then his face. So he has like almost like a hat on, but it's not a hat. It's actually his skull, I think. It looks kind of like the kind of tall cylindrical type hats that you find sometimes on, for example, statues of Nefertiti. And then he has some very sharp looking insecty sort of teeth and a beard that twists around like Jafar's from Aladdin. Remember when Jasmine said that his beard was very twisted? This was what I kind of envisioned. It's like 2 strands crossed over. Nasty looking fella. Scorpions. Something else you see quite commonly in ancient Egyptian mythology and any sort of popular culture reference as well. Next we have Giant Spider, which is a forest card. Green mana. And it is, of course, a spider type creature. Just a little bit of lore down at the bottom of the card here. The broken lands are littered with the remnants of civilizations long dead and infested by terrors very much alive. So here's a massive spider on the card. And I think that's a big turkey here that he kind of has his death grip on, that he's reaching out to. I think it's a turkey, just for scale. So it is quite a large spider. There's bones kind of littered around in the background as well. So that is the giant spider. I've never minded spiders. I used to work with 2 girls who were frightened of them. Absolutely frightened. One of them attempted to call me in to work one time to get rid of a spider for her, which I declined. Politely, but I declined. So, we now have a Naga Druid type creature called the Naga Vitalist. This is a forest card, so it uses green mana. The lands of the god Pharaoh are suffused with his breath, it says. Add to your mana pool 1 mana of any type that a land you control could produce. Interesting. Now the artwork on this one is pretty cool. So these look to be some sort of palm tree in the background. And then there's a snake lady of some sort. I think it's a lady. There's flowing veils and a breastplate, so I would say it is a lady snake. A very thick lady snake with green and yellow scales on her back. And I can't tell if this is also, there's like a bridge of some sort between the 2 trees. It looks like a snake's belly, but it is hard to tell if that's what that is. And there's a little bit here as well, just around the base of this tree. So that's pretty interesting. I like snakes. I've had 2 pet snakes. I had a ball python named Jinx, who was a female, and then I had a male ball python named Salazar. Now Jinx died of a nervous system disease. I believe. I think it was. Stargazing, I think they call it. I can't remember what the actual disease is called, but they end up turning their belly towards the sky and they get twisted up and whatnot. So it was very unfortunate. It happened very fast. It was really sad. And Salazar is still alive. So I love snakes. They can warm up to you just like any other animal, honestly. So I wouldn't go picking one up out of the garden necessarily, but both of my snakes were very well acclimatized and they were okay with being picked up and whatnot. Salazar used to wrap around my wrist and I could wear him like a little bracelet, which I suppose is kind of like a predatory instinct that he had, but there's charm in everything, right? So anyway, that is the Naga Vitalist, the Snake Lady. So our next one is an island card. So this is blue mana. It is an instant called the Winds of Rebuke. A little bit of lore down at the bottom. I have foreseen that you will not pass my trial. This big winged creature in the middle looks to be, again, like some sort of jackal, but it's hard to tell. It looks like there's a snout and maybe two big ears at the top, but it's hard to tell. And then there's two human-sized men just falling out of the air. So he's casting them aside because they won't pass his trial, I think. I can't tell if this is a banner or some sort of hook or weapon, some sort of staff. And then in the back, there's a couple of obelisks just popping up in the background there. Return target non-land permanent to its owner's hand. Each player puts the top two cards of his or her library into his or her graveyard. There's that graveyard theme again. I think I've said before that I knew what Magic was. I've known since junior high, when I used to see all the geeks sort of sit over in one corner and play, and I didn't really know what Magic was. I knew it was a card game, but I didn't really know what it was. I just knew it was something that they did. And I was an outcast as well in high school. Just kind of like the geeks, but I wasn't in that group. I was in a different group. So I still wasn't a popular kid by any stretch at all. But I kind of knew that they had their own thing. And now I'm learning because I'm a huge fan of grand strategy games. I play a lot of Europa and Sid Meier's Civilization and some other sort of strategy-based games. And so Magic the Gathering kind of popped up again, and I'd probably in a Facebook feed or something. I don't remember how I remembered about it, and it just seemed to appeal to me now. So I'm going to give it my best shot. Try and learn it. So here we have a human warrior creature called Unwavering Initiative. It is another embalming card. So we're talking about creating copies, almost like a zombie, but not quite, of a particular card or creature. Embalm only is a sorcery. Now this fellow is very decked out. He's quite an outfit on, and he's in some sort of arena, I would say. It looks like those are people sitting in the stands. So there's a big statue of a god or a pharaoh or something to that effect. And then they're in some sort of amphitheater or ring, arena type thing. And he must be fighting. So he has some sort of spear, a few other weapons. It looks like his right hand is a sword or some sort of knife. It's hard to say, but he looks like he's well prepared for the moment. Very physically fit individual. So we won't worry too much about him. A swamp card, the Trespasser's Curse. It is an aura curse type of enchantment. Even in the relative safety of the city, there are places best left undisturbed. I think we can say that about any city or town. It's probably places that certain people just shouldn't go. So this artwork has a young lady in a gold dress, and she's holding a fire, a torch of some sort for light. There are hieroglyphs on the walls, and then these look like maybe they're demon faces or souls or something They're definitely not friendly, and they are cursing this girl who is trespassing wherever she happens to be. Maybe she's in a crypt. I'll see her there. I'll whisper to her. I do like the swamp cards. They tend to be very aggressive, and kind of dark and shifty, so I quite like them. Ooh, a legendary artifact called Bontu's Monument is our next card. The worthy shall strive for greatness. Supremacy in life leads to supremacy in the afterlife, and that is a monument inscription. I'm guessing that's an inscription on Bontu's monument. Black creature spells, so black creature would be anything of swamp mana. You cast, costs 1 less to cast. Whenever you cast a creature spell, each opponent loses 1 life, and you gain 1 life. So this is Bontu's monument up here, carved. Kind of, again, similar to a sphinx type creation. Right next to a river, and you can kind of see there are pyramids strewn all over the landscape with the odd obelisk scattered in there as well. It looks like a dinosaur. I feel like it's supposed to be maybe a crocodile, maybe. And there was a bit of sacredness involving the crocodile in ancient Egypt, so maybe they're kind of pulling off of that. Who knows? But it looks like a dinosaur to me. And now we have a minotaur warrior called the On-Crop Crusher. Hesitation breeds dissension. To be worthy of the next life, you must never look back. And that was said by Anep, the vizier of Hazaret. So here's another one of these ram-looking fellows with the big curly horns. And he has red eyes, and his hooves are sickle-type weapons. You can kind of see there. He's running towards us. That's probably not a good thing. I love the armor and the clothes that they wear. They're all like the gold and the royal blue colors that we usually associate with, Egyptian all the way into kind of Mediterranean type historical things that we see. That royal navy blue type color with the gold. It's a nice combo. The crop crasher. Oh, is that why his hands are sickles? Maybe it has something to do with it, because he would be harvesting grain with the sickles. Who knows? A Naga Druid, another one, called the Weaver of Currents. And this is a kind of a multi-mana card. Requires 1 forest and then 1 island as well. Your waters sustain the living and carry the dead. Mighty Luxa, let your power flow through me. So this is, I can't tell if that is a male or female. It's a snake of some sort. And they're wearing an outfit, which is kind of atypical of snakes, but yeah. He's got arms as well, he or she, and looks like maybe this individual is on the banks of a river, maybe, and that's why they're weaving currents. It's hard to say, honestly. It's a very smoky, sort of mysterious looking card, and that looks like maybe it's a temple in the background. This one allows you to add mana to your mana pool. Ooh. This is another Plains card, so it's got the white mana. This is a god, a legendary creature called Oketra the True. So this is what looks like some sort of cat god. So we already saw a sacred cat, but this is a different cat. And it's wearing like a gold helmet and a big headpiece, and has a really pretty dress on. Maybe it's a goddess. Or maybe they're just wearing kind of a long robe that looks kind of like a dress. Regardless, that is a cool outfit. I would like to have it. I don't know where I would wear it, but I would say he or she is perched on one of the steps of one of those pyramids that we saw, the futuristic type ones. Double strike, indestructible. Oketra the True can't attack or block unless you control at least 3 other creatures. And then with 3 plains mana, or white mana, create a 1/1 white warrior creature token with vigilance. I have a feeling that I won't be able to add this particular card to my deck for a long time. Some of these are very complicated, and I don't know the rules and how things work together well enough to put some of these cards in my decks. I know just the bare minimum, honestly. There actually used to be a shop in the town that I live in that did a lot of Magic the Gathering type events and sold all their packs and whatnot, but they decided to close up shop a couple of months ago. I think the owner was just moving on to something else. So otherwise I would stop by and see if I could learn how to use this card, but this one's a little on the rare side, so maybe I won't use it anyway. Maybe I'll just keep it until 25 years from now. I can sell it on whatever the eBay platform happens to be at the time. Now, the last card in this booster pack is a land card. It is a basic land of the mountain type. So, this is an intense looking land card. So we are overlooking sort of a scene with a bunch of obelisks. There's some pyramids in the background as well, and then there is this horned pyramid looking shape there in the background that looks like jackal ears or like ox horns, something to that effect. So, and the sun is shining down over it as well. So the mountain is kind of fiery energy. It's red mana. I'm assuming that's why they put the sun so strong in there. I don't know if it's setting or rising, but it is kind of indicating some sort of substantial power, possibly because the ancient Egyptians worshipped the sun so intensely. That might be why. But like I've said before, I need to dive into the lore of this game because the high fantasy aspect of it interests me so much. But I just know if I start, I won't stop, right? It's like with any high fantasy, anything, it's very, you kind of get enthralled in it if you're into that sort of thing. If you're into high fantasy, you get enthralled in it, and then you just never stop. So I don't want to dig too deep into it because I could get lost. So anyway, that is the 15 card booster pack of the Amonkhet release that we just went through. Some interesting cards in there. Only 1 basic land, which is what I was expecting. That's usually what I get. I think I've only had 1 booster pack with 2 lands in it, and that may have been a mistake in the factory. It's hard to say. So, some very interesting cards. I still like the Sacred Cat. I'm actually allergic to cats, so I can't have cats anyway, but I've always thought that Bastet and the mummified cats too. If you've seen pictures or read articles about the mummified pets, it's another interesting aspect that, cats kind of were revered in a lot of ways in ancient Egypt. So having the Sacred Cat is kind of cool. Most of these are just common cards. There are a few uncommons, and then with our Oketra the True, this one here. This one is a little on the rare side, so like I said, I may hold that one aside, or maybe not. Well, thank you very much for hanging out with me for a few minutes. I do appreciate the company. If you're heading back out into your day after watching, then I hope the rest of your day is as stress-free and as happy as possible. And if you're heading off to bed, then I hope you have the sweetest dreams that you've ever had. And I hope you can relax and snuggle in as soon as possible. I do hope you'll join me again. Sweet dreams.